Welcome, everyone. This is a broadcast as part of a lead up to Global Oneness Day, which is on Tuesday, October 24th. Welcome to all of you gathered here today. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm here with our special guest, Iyanla Vanzant. We're going to share exciting details about Global Oneness Day that is just around the corner. But before we share, I'm going to formally introduce our special guest. Iyanla Vanzant, from Welfare Mother to New York Times bestselling author. From the Brooklyn Projects to Emmy Award winner, from Broken Pieces to Peace, Iyanla is one of the country's most celebrated writers and public speakers, and she's among the most influential, socially engaged, and acclaimed spiritual life coaches of our time. Dedicated to facilitating the growth and evolution of human consciousness, Iyanla's body of work spans over 3 decades and includes 15 published books and 6 New York Times bestsellers. And welcome to this Global Oneness Day lead-up program, Iyanla. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. So we're going to just jump right in because we've only got about 30 minutes. And one of the panels during Global Oneness Day is called "In Spirituality, Embodying Your True Nature." And as I mentioned in the introduction, you really are a huge leader and change maker in this area of consciousness. So can you just talk a little bit about that? Spirituality, embodying your true nature. Why is that important?
I think it's important because we are programmed and conditioned and socialized to move towards everything from a physical aspect based on our senses, what we can see, what we can smell, what we can touch, what we can taste. And in doing that, living in that way, we miss the core and essence of who we are. You know, we are spiritual beings having a physical or human experience. And when we don't live from the spirit to the physical, what we do is we become codependent or dependent or reliant on our physical senses and the physical world, which changes so rapidly, it can keep us off balance and off centered. So I think living from the true essence, the spiritual essence of who we are, gives us greater dominion in our life. It gives us greater connection to our source, and it gives us an opportunity to live beyond the limitations of the physical world.
Yes, amen to that. And Iyanla, if I may, how do you ground yourself spiritually each day?
For me, it's prayer. I start my day with prayer. I have a really, really active prayer life because that's how I stay in touch with what's going on within me, because the world is changing so rapidly. I mean, when we look at our political arena, when we look at our social arenas, I can't be reliant on my eyes and my ears. I have to know that there's something else going on. So for me, it's prayer, it's meditation, it's really staying in touch with the core and the essence of who I am, and having a deep relationship with my source.
Yes, boy, so important. So I was gonna just follow on to that, just as you hit rough patches and you mentioned all the crazy things going on in the world today. So is it then just turning toward source, toward spirit, when you hit rough patches to ground yourself?
Yeah, and we say spirit, and I think that's important because so many of us learned about spirit or came to understand spirit through a religious concept. Do this in the church and do this the way everybody else says to do it, and we don't really develop that close connection to ourselves, to the spirit within, and that is what is going to take us to the truth and identity of who we are.
Yes, amen to that, because we're all just, Michael Beckwith likes to use the term that we're emanations of the divine, and it's so true. That really just puts a finger on it, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Well, let me just share a little bit about Global Oneness Day. This is, we're going to come back. I've got lots of questions for Iyanla. It's such a privilege to have her here with us. And of course, she's got this incredible show on Oprah called Iyanla Fix My Life, which is awesome, by the way. If you haven't watched that show, highly encourage you to tune in, because it gets down into tangible, practical ways that we can live our lives with health and well-being. But yeah, so a little bit about Global Oneness Day here that Iyanla is here to talk with me about. It's, of course, just around the corner. It's on Tuesday, October 24th. Invite you to X out and pin that whole day, because over 12 hours of video will be cast for the first time. It's always been an audio only. This is the first year, in our 8th year of Global Oneness Day, that it's going to be in video cast, an over 12-hour program. It's free. And if you miss parts of the day, we'll be sending out links so you can watch it for free after. Last year, we estimated over 100,000 people tuned in to Global Oneness Day. We call this our Earth Day for an Awakened Humanity. And it's so important that Global Oneness Day continue to grow in its level of participation, because just as Iyanla and I are discussing here, it brings in this important aspect that we are all emanations of the divine, that we're actually all one. We can't see it with our eyesight, but it's true, isn't it?
It
Iyanla, we
is.
are all one.
Yes, we are, and we get sidetracked, and we get deluded into believing that we're separate entities because of our age and our income and where we live, and it's just time for us to move to a different way of being.
Yes, absolutely. Because when we come from that place of oneness, we're coming from that place of spirit, of the sacred, of namaste, where we're seeing the divine in each other. And wow, all these things that you talk about, that Oprah talks about, where we're living our spirituality 7x24. Those things just happen because we know who we are and we know who others are then, don't we?
Yes, and it's really difficult because, again, because of the way that we are socialized in this world. I'm rich, you're poor, I'm old, you're young, I'm black, you're white, and we miss the joy and the beauty that connects us in a very powerful way, where we can look at each other and say, okay, this is a part of me. How am I going to treat this part of me? How am I going to speak to this part of me? How am I going to love on this part of me? That is so important. And I think if we can get to that level of oneness in our consciousness, that every aspect of our life will be better. Our relationships will be better. Our relationship with ourselves will be better. We find greater meaning and depth in life. It's not just a phrase that we use, every now and then. Oh, we're all one. And it's not just the lyrics of a song. It's a reality that we are all in this together. We are all one life and one spirit and one mind. And that is where I hope we can get to.
Amen to that. And that, of course, is the whole objective of Global Oneness Day, which is, we call it our Earth Day for an Awakened Humanity. The particular theme this year is oneness, living into the unity of all of life, which is really capturing what we're talking about. And it's so important. I was a technology executive in Silicon Valley back in the 90s, and I left because I thought, this Darwinian world where, I'm just sitting here growing a company's revenue and profits. What in the heck am I doing? There's so much more important work we could be doing, namely to just talk about ultimate reality. Some of my friends will talk about living well or dying well. Well, it's all, if we're all one and we have an eternal life and we have infinite potential, we want to live well and die well. We want to, it's just all about living as who we really are. And as you mentioned, then we just, our self-image, our quality of life, our health and well-being are off the charts. And we naturally are reaching out and helping others and just helping to build a better world because we see that that's our true self, don't we?
Yeah. Yes, we absolutely do. But, that whole notion of true self, I think that's where a lot of people get tripped up. Because depending on how we were raised and where we were raised and who raised us, that determines how we see ourselves and what we consider of ourselves and for ourselves. So when you talk about a true self, everybody has a different understanding of what that means. Everybody. Some people think your true self is your bank account. Some people think your true self is what you believe religiously, and some people think your true self is what other people tell you. So it's really interesting that we can come to a place in our conscious minds, meaning I'm aware, you're aware, of how we see each other, handle each other, how we work with each other, how we consider one another from a place of oneness, understanding that every single thing that I wish for you, that I say to you, that I do to you, that I'm wishing, saying, doing to a part of myself, that's real.
Yes, yes, it is. And the golden rule, really living it out. And I mentioned in your introduction, Iyanla, you're, an amazing leader in this area of spiritual coach. So as you talk about self, as you're, with somebody that's quite evolved, that's really wanting to step into the fullness of who they are, how do you guide people here?
Well, I have a saying that I teach my students at all times, in all situations, under all circumstances. There's nobody but you and God in the room. So I don't care what's going on. It's either a reflection of you or a reflection of God. If it's loving and compassionate, if it's wise and giving, if it's receptive, then it's God. And if it is resistant and angry and ugly and mean, then it's you. So the question becomes, how are you going to handle it? How are you going to handle what you see showing up day by day, moment by moment? And if you begin to handle people and situations and circumstances in a way that's, what they say in the corporate world, win-win, where everybody is honored and respected. And some of us, we really just need to learn how to do it. We've never been taught. We've never been taught how to look at a person and say, that's an aspect of me over there. Okay, how do I want to be treated? And I say very often, it's beyond do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's be in the presence of others as you would have them be. That takes it to a whole nother level.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. And of course, because the other is ourself.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I love that.
And that's what we have to become more aware of, and stop seeing the clothes and the race and the sexual orientation as a means of separation, and see it as a deeper expression of all that is possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that too, of just seeing it's God and you, or in the room, and these higher qualities of being, that we're actually being an expression then of God, and these other things we've kind of fallen asleep at the switch here. Life is foreshadowing us.
And what happens is, when people don't have that consciousness of oneness, and when they don't have that understanding of their source, their creator, God, higher mind, whatever you want to call it, what happens is they get caught up in what they're looking at. So someone is behaving badly, they may not be aware of their oneness with you, their connection to source. Someone is treating you badly or speaking to you badly. It's not because that's who they are. That's because they may have, for a moment, had a temporary lapse of awareness.
Absolutely, so important, and that is so important, because that then allows us to turn it around and bless the person, because we've been in that place before where we're just in that where our energy is low, where we're just down, not where we want to be, and so rather than coming from judgment, as you mentioned, just saying, well, this is a person having a tough day, and just blessing them and blessing them again.
Well, we will curse people, but we won't bless them. We will wish harm upon them, but we have more difficult time just blessing people and saying, okay, I'm just going to allow you to be right now, and pray for your, your growth, your healing, your whatever it is. But we will curse someone and wish harm upon them faster than we will just bless them.
Yeah. Well, that's why we've got Global Oneness Day here to just help remind us to live in ultimate reality as the emanation of divine that we are. I'm going to just share a little more about Global Oneness Day, then I'm going to come back to some questions I have for Iyanla. Global Oneness Day, to see all of the speakers, go to globalonenesssummit.org. That's globalonenesssummit.org, or just Google Global Oneness Day. When you go to the site, you'll see all of the amazing speakers, people like Iyanla that are just amazing world leaders, spiritual leaders, people from many different professions, entertainment, sports, science, etc. And I want to say they're all freely giving of their time, like Iyanla. They're incredibly busy people. People are pulling on their sleeve all the time, but all these people have given of their time. They're coming into the program at no charge, and they're helping to spread the word for Global Oneness Day. So I just want to thank Iyanla and all the speakers that are helping Global Oneness Day to grow into this larger and larger event worldwide each year. So globalonenesssummit.org is the site as well. Just to give you a little taste for some of the things that are part of the program, this Spirituality Embodying Your True Nature program is Patricia Coda-Robles, Alan Cohen, and Kenji Kimura. And the Science of Oneness panel, which is one of the most popular panels, is Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden, Nassim Harriman, and Lynn McTaggart. Then Barbara Marks Hubbard and Neil Donald Walsh are together for the Awaken New Species panel. Barbara Marks Hubbard and Barnett Bain, Joan Borisenko, and Barbara Fields are part of the Human Consciousness Shift panel. And then there's a Sacred Action panel with Marianne Williamson, Neil Donald Walsh, Andrew Harvey, and Rabbi Michael Lerner, and James Twyman. So how cool is that? So that's just a little taste there. Each of the panels is just astonishing. The wisdom that you'll hear, the heart language, the presence where we're coming from this place of oneness. You'll be able to feel into that. And there's, again, over 12 hours. It starts at 8:15 a.m. Pacific time on Tuesday, October 24th, goes to about 9 p.m. that day, and it's all broadcast and video. So invite you to set time aside with your friends, family, and coworkers. Get a big screen so you can watch the whole thing together. It'll be incredibly inspiring, and more important than the inspiration is it's a call to action. And God knows in today's world with the nationalist populist movements that we're seeing here in the U.S. and in other countries around the world, where we're U-turning on progress, right? We're turning around and heading backwards because we're pulling away from the Paris Climate Change Accord, these other kinds of military actions and things that are going on. Clearly it's now on the grassroots to create the change, to be the change that we want to see in the world. So I want to just invite you with all of your friends to register for Global Oneness Day at globalonenesssummit.org, and then get all your friends and family together to participate so we can year-round live as an emanation of the divine, see ourselves as a cell in the body of this earth, of humanity, of life on earth, and where we're here to nurture life, to serve life first, which is our mission as spiritual persons inhabiting a body here on the earth. That's where we're coming from in our Global Oneness Day message. I'm going to come back to you, Iyanla. I've watched your program. This I mentioned, it's called Iyanla Fix My Life on Oprah. And one of the things that you've been quoted as saying is, if you want your life to work, you must be willing to do the work. And I really get that when watching your program, that it's not easy sometimes. It's hard, and it invites really difficult challenge and change, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And, here's the thing. We don't do anything as human beings unless there's a benefit. So the question becomes, what is the benefit to me relating to other people as they're part of me? That's the work that we have to do. We have to learn how to relate to one another from a consciousness of oneness and understand what is the benefit. There's a benefit. First of all, it's a lot less stress. It's a lot less stress when you see, okay, this is a part of me, and I want to deal with this person in a loving and compassionate way so that we can both heal. That's number one. Number two, you get to learn a lot about yourself. When you look at how you think about others, treat others, speak to others, you learn a lot about who you are. And there may be things about you that you are ready, willing, and open to change. So that's another benefit. The other thing is you become a demonstration, a teacher in a way to other people about how to be, how to handle conflict, how to move through difficult situations together as opposed to against one another. That's a very powerful benefit to people. So I think that doing the work is about really understanding how who you are is a demonstration and a contribution and a value and a service to every single person you encounter. And as you move more in a conscious of oneness, as you move more in a conscious of alignment with your true identity, you influence how others show up in the world. And I just think that's always a good thing.
Yes, it is. It's just that's the best, isn't it? And you've often you share that everybody's a leader, right? Everybody's a leader. I love that because everybody is a leader, and then we're influencing in a really positive way. And the other thing I'll just mention relating to this is it also brings peace to us, doesn't it? Because there's no our soul knows that we're an emanation of the divine. We may or may not consciously know that, but our soul knows that, and it's just a peace that overcomes us when we step into this capacity, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That you know that moment by moment, day by day, everything you do is making a contribution to someone else's benefit and to the world. That's just a state of peace, and it takes us out of the consciousness that everything I do has to earn me money or has to have some kind of financial benefit, or that at the other end, who I am doesn't matter, and what I do doesn't matter, and how I be doesn't matter. When you get into the consciousness of oneness, understanding that you are the value, you are the contribution, it really changes how you see yourself and move in the world.
Yes, and to that, well, and again, your program, Iyanla Fix My Life on Oprah, is such a great program because it really, if you want to see the rubber hitting the road, where you're sitting there with people that are really confronting difficult changes in their lives. You see that on your show, bringing in the spiritual, but so much more, just the change that people really need to step into if they're going to create the health and well-being that they want. So, again, what a great contribution to the world. And there's so much more. You write books, you give speeches, you coach. I'm going to turn to something else that you share, you're known to share, Iyanla. You've stated that in this age of technological advancement where everybody's plugged into their phone and their computer, that it's tempting to seek online that which can only be revealed through your heart. And I thought that might be a valuable thing to talk about.
Absolutely. We're finding partners online, and we're setting up like accounts. I forget what they call it, the likes, and we're looking for connection with people. And we really think that we can do that, in 140 characters or by placing our intimate thoughts and ideas online. But that really has to come through your heart. You have to be connected to people at the heart level. I'm so dismayed sometimes, even to pay a bill. You can't get a person on the phone. You have to talk to a recording and push buttons. And what that's doing is it's separating us from our hearts and from one another, which makes oneness even more difficult because we're just not connecting. We're just not connecting. And it's taking us to a place where when we do connect, we don't have the compassion for one another. We don't have the heart for one another. I don't know what else to call it. Here's the challenge that I find. It's so difficult to speak spiritual principles with an intellectual language. So here we are trying to give meaning to spiritual concept and construct using intellectual language. It's just hard to do.
Right. Yes, it is. Yeah, very true. To talk in science and philosophy and so on, even intellectually, cerebrally, but spirituality ultimately is a function of the heart. It's a
It
function
is.
of connection and communing and all of these things. Yes, which you've been talking about. So, and that's why it's funny we opened up by talking about this panel, spirituality, embodying your two natures. So that's really coming back to this what we're talking about here now, which is to embody our true nature. You mentioned prayer, and there's affirmative prayer and there's contemplative prayer, and there are many effective forms of prayer and meditation. And it's so important to just ground ourselves in spirituality and to live it throughout the day, because that's how we do the things that we're talking about, right? Not just being up in our head and working our checklists.
Well, let's talk just briefly, if we can, about what is your true nature. I mean, what is your true nature? And the way I learned about my true nature was understanding the nature of my source, whether you call it God or Holy Spirit or universal law or principle. My true nature is the essence of those principles that govern the entire universe in which we live. The power, the the possibilities that exist everywhere. That's my true nature. My true nature is loving. My true nature is kind. My true nature is expansive. My true nature is flexible. My true nature is wisdom. This is my true nature. So we have to ask ourselves, okay, so what is the benefit of me aspiring to live my true nature, as opposed to living the stories I've been told about myself or the things I've seen promoted about myself? What is the benefit? Well, then when I look around at the abundance and the greatness and the power of the universe, that means that all exists in me. Now imagine if I could do that in my own life. If I could learn how to move through the seasons of my life. We all want spring and summer, but winter is a part of life. I need to learn how to move through the seasons of my life. I need to learn that there's always more than I can see. I need to learn that it's okay to go into the deep of the forest of my life, not having a map or always having an understanding of what lies beyond what's right in front of my face. I just think there are so many benefits that we can get from understanding what our true nature is and learning how to live it every single day, and being open to the fact that everybody else is doing the same thing.
Oh, beautiful. What a place to leave it. That'll be the last word. And I love it. And I especially love, again, bringing in the seasons of our true nature. Because as you mentioned, it's not just some panacea high. Boy, and on your television show, do you bring that home or what? So, no,
Yeah.
it's living through the seasons of our true nature. And I love all of the description you put around that, Iyanla. Well, very inspiring. This is our appetizer, everyone, for Global Oneness Day, because these are the kinds of things we're going to open up in discussion for over 12 hours. And Iyanla's really got it started here for us. So, Iyanla, thank you so much for being with us. Wow, very inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, and good luck, and let's all think as one.
Yes, we are all one. Let's live that way. And so everybody, in closing, Global Oneness Day, you can Google it. Go to globalonenesssummit.org. Be sure to register. As well, 2 weeks after Global Oneness Day, we're going to start a call to action. It's called Awaken New Species, so that we can live as one year round. You might want to check that out. If you go to awakennewspecies.com, you'll see that call to action. That's a 52-week program. You can learn about that. You may want to register for that as well. It's a way to keep Global Oneness Day going year round. Iyanla Vanzant, thank you again for being with us, and Godspeed with your terrific work.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Be blessed, everyone.
Okay, be blessed, everybody. Love and thanks.